All right, so today we're diving into something, well, interesting. We've got this thread from Kiwi Farms, and it's about, of all people, Keith Olbermann.
Yeah, this one's a bit of a doozy. It's from back in 2017, September, actually. And it really shows how people saw him back then, especially, with how he was going after Trump at the time.
It's like he became, what, public enemy number one on certain corners of the internet?
Yeah, and Kiwi Farms, well, they definitely have a certain
Mhm.
reputation. It's not exactly your grandma's Facebook group.
Let's just say they're not known for their subtlety.
Right. And this thread, it's more than just about Olbermann. It's like a peek into how these online communities, especially the ones that are a little more, shall we say, niche, how they glom onto people they think are, well,
Right for the picking.
exactly. They have this whole lolcow thing going on.
Which, for anyone who might not be familiar with the inner workings of Kiwi Farms, is basically their term for.
Someone they can
Yeah.
poke fun at.
To put it mildly, yeah. And it's fascinating because it goes beyond just this one forum. It speaks to how the internet can take certain voices, certain ideas, and just amplify them, even the really out there stuff. And Olbermann, he was never one to shy away from a strong opinion, was he?
Oh, no, not at all. He went after Trump pretty hard, and he did it with, well, a certain amount of flair, let's say.
Sure. That's one way to put it.
And that's exactly what these Kiwi Farms users picked up on. To them, he was over the top, totally going overboard. They even compared him to, well,
the man himself.
you got it. And you see it in the comments, too. Like, there's one from Double-Digit Gender Gap. Lol. Shit posting about Trump is this guy's career. That's sad, they write.
Ouch. Not exactly pulling any punches, are they?
Nope. But it shows how they saw Olbermann, right?
Yeah.
Not just as a commentator, but as someone who was totally out of touch.
And then there's Bungle Boy, who basically describes Olbermann's career as this long line of, well,
Meltdowns.
let's go with passionate outbursts. Apparently it got so bad that networks just started dropping him left and right.
It's like a whole different side to the image he was putting out there. I mean, he was trying to be the face of the resistance, right? Standing up to Trump.
David versus Goliath.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But on Kiwi Farms, they saw him more like, Goliath's wacky neighbor.
The one who always wears that bathrobe outside.
You know the one. It's like classic internet, though, isn't it? You put something out there, and people twist it, amplify it.
Until it's barely recognizable. And it's not just how he said it either. They went after the content itself, too.
Oh, yeah. They dissected the resistance phase, like taking Churchill's speeches and making them about Trump, talking about the BuzzFeed dossier like it was gospel. They tore it all apart.
And we can't forget the cheesemaker copy pasta.
Oh, man. The cheesemaker, that's a whole other rabbit hole.
It's like this weird internet inside joke. Just rambling, nonsensical.
And for some reason, absolutely captivating. But here's where it gets interesting. This user, Null, they make this connection between the cheesemaker copy pasta and get this, Olbermann's whole style.
Like, they're saying he's the human cheesemaker.
Kind of. Like his commentary is just as all over the place, just as nonsensical.
So he's become the meme. It makes you think, with everyone and their dog having a podcast these days, how do you not fall into that trap? Becoming a caricature, I mean.
That's the question, isn't it? Olbermann, he's a symbol of how commentary has changed. I mean, the guy went from sports to straight-up opinion pieces. He jumped on that digital bandwagon early.
Rode the wave until it crashed.
Maybe, yeah. But this thread, it's like they're judging that whole style, right? Picking apart everything, how he talks, what he says, even his emotions.
Like they've got him under a microscope.
Exactly. And it's not pretty, but it shows how these online groups, even the weird ones like Kiwi Farms, they can really change how we see people.
It's like they're writing their own version of the story. Olbermann might have thought he was the good guy, fighting the good fight. But here, not so much.
And that gets at something really important about the internet. It's not just the big news anymore. It's these little groups with their own weird rules that can really mess with how we see the world, how we see these public figures.
Like a funhouse mirror reflecting back all these distorted images.
Perfect analogy.
Mm-hmm.
It gets hard to tell what's real, And this thread, you shows exactly how that happens. You've got the jokes, the mean comments, everyone agreeing with each other.
Not exactly a recipe for a productive conversation.
You got that right.
Yeah.
It's important to remember this is just one little corner of the internet.
Right.
It's a very specific group with their own language, their own values. But what's interesting is, even in this little bubble, we see these bigger issues popping up. Like, how do regular people interact with these media types?
Yeah.
How has political commentary changed? And the big one, How does the internet change how we see people?
How much of it is real? How much is just the internet messing with us?
Exactly. That's what we're trying to figure out, right? This thread, it started with one guy, one online community. But it points to something much bigger, something we're all dealing with in this digital age. It's messy, it's funny, it's kind of scary.
And it's not going away anytime soon.
Nope. So what do we do about it? How do we deal with all this? That's the question we have to ask ourselves.
That's a lot, right? We started with this one thread, this little window into Kiwi Farms, and their unique take on Keith Olbermann. But it feels like we've stumbled onto something much bigger.
Yeah, it's like we've pulled the thread on this internet sweater, and now the whole thing's unraveling. It's kind of amazing when you think about it. All this potential for people to connect, to share ideas.
But then it's also a breeding ground for, well, not so great stuff, those echo chambers you were talking about,
Huh.
where everyone's just agreeing with each other, getting more and more extreme.
And that's where someone like Olbermann, who used to be this big-time TV guy, can become, well, a punchline, a cautionary tale, or, a lolcow, which is kind of messed up when you really think about it.
Definitely not what he was going for, I'd imagine. And it makes you wonder, where do we go from here? If this is how we're going to discuss things online, are we ever going to get anywhere?
That's the million-dollar question, right? And I don't pretend to have all the answers.
Yeah.
But I think what we see in this Kiwi Farms thread, it highlights the challenges we're all facing. We need to be smarter about the media we consume, think more critically about what we see online. We have to realize that what we say, how we act online, it has an impact.
It's not just a game, right?
Exactly. So what can we do, honestly? I think it starts with ourselves. Recognize our own biases, be open to hearing different viewpoints. And remember, there's a person on the other side of the screen.
It's about remembering to be human, even when we're online.
Exactly. The internet's not all bad, right? It can be a force for good, too. We just have to make it that way.
So, to wrap things up, where does this leave us? What can our listeners take away from all of this?
I'd say, be kind, be curious, and think for yourself. Don't just accept everything you see online as gospel, and never underestimate the power you have to make the internet a better place, even if it's just one comment, one interaction at a time.
This has been quite the deep dive. We've covered a lot of ground, from the unique culture of Kiwi Farms to the larger implications of online discourse and the changing landscape of political commentary. We hope this has given you some food for thought, and as always, thanks for joining us for the ride.